many Rotary events and things like this, and it's great to get, you know, different people from different contexts as well as, you know, the US and other places. So it's you know, amazing to see other people. Uganda, look at that, that is so cool. So we've got Uganda, Colombia, Mexico, Peru, US, England. Where am I missing? Anyone else?
All right, so I want to welcome you again. Thank you for joining us here today. This is, as I said, our first part in our webinar series. Our goal is to put youth at the center of war, abolition, and positive peace building. So that's why we're gathered here today, and we will be kind of promoting our peace courses that we'll be hosting in January. So we'll get more into that later. So for right now, I would just like to introduce Alejandra, who will tell us a little bit more about what is positive peace.
Welcome to everyone to our first webinar. So I'm going to talk about what positive peace is. So first of all, we have to understand that there are two common conceptions of peace. Those are negative peace and positive peace. So negative peace is the absence of violence or fear of violence, an intuitive definition that many agree with, and one that enables peace to be measured more easily. So we can define it like a ceasefire, or maybe if there's not a social civil war in a country. So we say that we have a negative peace. But a more ambitious conceptualization of peace is positive peace. Well-developed positive peace represents the capacity for a society to meet the needs of its citizens, reduce the number of grievances that arise, and resolve remaining disagreements without the use of violence. We know that human beings encounter conflict regularly, whether at home, at work, among friends, or on a more systemic level between ethnic, religious, or political groups. So the majority of these conflicts do not result in violence. Most of them can reconcile their difference without resorting to violence by using mechanisms such as informal societal behaviors, constructive dialogue, or legal system designed to reconcile grievances. So this positive peace look forward to develop a culture of peace in the countries. We have to understand that conflict provides the opportunity to negotiate or renegotiate a social contract, and as such, it is possible for constructive conflict to involve no violence. So positive peace can be seen as providing the necessary conditions for adaptation to changing conditions, a well-run society, and the non-violent resolution of disagreements. So the IAP, or the Institute for Economics and Peace, developed 8 pillars or 8 key domains that comprise positive peace, and my friend's going to tell you about it.
Yes, as Alejandra said, to achieve positive peace, there are 8 pillars that must be taken into account to achieve. The first one is well-functioning government, and it means that delivers high-quality public and civil service, engenders trust and participation, demonstrates political stability, and upholds the rule of law. And the second one is sound business environment, and this involves the strength of economic conditions as well as the formal institutions that support the operation of the private sector and determine the soundness of the business environment. And this is mine, the business competitive and economic productivity are both associated with the most peaceful countries, as is the presence of regulatory systems that are conducive to business operations.
So the third pillar is equitable distribution of resources. So what is this? It's equity and access to resources such as health, education, and equity of income distribution as well. With the fourth pillar being the acceptance of the rights of others. So this one's formal laws that guarantee basic human rights, freedoms, informal social and cultural norms that can relate to behaviors of citizens, serve as levels of proxy of tolerance between different ethnic, linguistic, religious, and socioeconomic groups within their country.
The other one is good relation with neighbors. Peaceful relation with other countries are important as a good relation between groups within a country. Countries with positive external relations are more peaceful and tend to be more politically stable, have better functioning government and regionally integrated, and have lower levels of organized internal conflict. This factor is also beneficial for business and support foreign direct investments, tourism, and human capital inflows. The other pillar is high levels of human capital. A skilled human capital base reflects the extent to which societies care for the young, educate citizens, and promote the development of knowledge, thereby improving economic productivity, enabling political participation, and increasing social capital. Education is a fundamental building block through which societies can build resilience and develop mechanisms to learn and adapt.
The sixth pillar is free flow of information. Free and independent media disseminates information in a way that leads to greater openness and helps individuals and civil society work together. This is reflected in the extent in which citizens can gain access to information, and whether media is free and independent, and how well informed citizens are. This leads to better decision-making and more rational responses of times in crisis. The eighth pillar is low levels of corruption. In societies with high corruption, resources are ineffectively allocated, often leading to a lack of funding for essential services. The resulting inequities can lead to civil unrest, and extreme situations can be a catalyst for serious violence. Low corruption can enhance confidence and trust in institutions as well.
So now that we have a more general idea of what positive peace is and keeping the 8 pillars of positive peace in mind, we're going to go into our talk today, whom our presenter will be giving. So our presenter today is a practitioner scholar with a PhD in international conflict analysis and over 20 years leadership, programming, and analysis experience in the areas of peace, education, youth, and psychotherapy. His international role and reputation for his work is reflected in his position as an education director for World Beyond War. That is a global movement to end war and establish a just and sustainable peace. They have membership in over 175 countries and chapters and affiliates around the world. He's received multiple awards for contributions to peace building, social change, including the Rotary Peace Fellow. So please welcome Dr. Phil Gittens from World Beyond War, whom we've partnered today to bring you this webinar.
Thank you so much, Abraham, and thank you so much it was wonderful to have a bit of an introduction and an overview of positive peace. Congratulations to you all. It's really useful. Maybe I can say a little bit about that in terms of positive peace. And you might be thinking, okay, so why is that important? Well, I think part of the reason why it was so useful, the Rotaract for Peace gave an overview of what positive peace is because you all in your countries now, and we have people on the line from Uganda, Venezuela, Peru, Mexico, Colombia, US, etc., can all start thinking about the different elements of positive peace in your own context. And in order to work for something that we want, such as peace, such as positive peace, we need to have some understanding of how to measure whether or not we have it or not. And the positive peace framework provides a really useful way of thinking about that, how much peace we have in different contexts. So I just want to say I really, really appreciate that. So, and thank you so much for the wonderful introduction. Before I talk about what I'm going to talk about, I really wanted to do a bit of a shout out to the young people that have just presented now. The whole ethos and theme for these series of webinars is putting young people at the center of war abolition and peace work. We are walking the talk in the sense that the young people have created this webinar. We're working in collaboration and co-creating the whole workshop and the project that Rotaract for Peace, Rotary Action Group for Peace, and World Beyond War are going to collaborate on together. So it's not just tokenistic talking, okay, let's get young people involved and hear their voice. No, we are walking the talk with regards to young people really stepping up and doing and playing leadership roles. So I can say that I've studied the field of peace and conflict work, and it's often the case that young people, they might be involved in projects, but they don't always have the opportunity to really inform them and lead the projects themselves. So everything that Rotaract for Peace are doing and leading in collaboration with the Rotary Action Group for Peace and World Beyond War is basically developed with this ethos of young people having this opportunity and the space and the support to really go out there and put them at the center of war abolition work and peace work. So thank you for listening to me on that one. I was asked to talk about war abolition, and I know that the Rotaract for Peace will talk a little bit shortly about breaking out into breakout rooms to look at particular components of what I'm going to talk about. Remind me, Rotaract for Peace, Abraham, Alejandra, Manuela, others, how long you want me to talk for, because I really want to allow a lot of time for people. I really want to hear other people on the call as well, if I'm honest. So I want to make sure they talk less, and you all on the phone call talk more than me. So please let me know how long I have.
No, don't worry. You have 25 minutes, and we left plenty of time for questions. So if anybody has any questions, you can save them, put them in the chat. We can ask Phil afterwards as well.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so here we go. So I might not actually have to present any of this because Shab, who's on the call, will be an expert on this because he's just listened to a similar kind of presentation. But I will present. I'm joking with you all. Okay, so here is what I wanted to talk about. What we wanted to talk about with you. So it revolves around a collaborative project, which was the brainchild, which was the idea led by Rotaract for Peace themselves after thankfully inviting me to talk at their wonderful World Peace Conference that they organized. They later got in touch and said, Phil, can we look at organizing with World Beyond War a course? And I said, oh my gosh, that would be wonderful and a dream to work with you all on a project. So we're really in this kind of development stage of thinking through what this project will be. In order to get to that, this is the first of a series of webinars. So I really want to talk about putting young people at the center of war abolition and peace work. I think we've said the congratulations. We've also seen who's here today in terms of a wonderful kind of mix of people who's here, which is so cool. Hola a todos, espero que están bien. Las personas que pueden hablar español, entonces puedo hablar un poquito de español también. I can speak a little bit of Spanish also, so it would be great to converse with you also in Spanish. Here's the argument. Equipping young people with the skills, tools, and support to prevent war and promote peace is the largest, most global and important challenges facing humanity. And here's the kind of the caveat. There's a load of work out there involving young people in peace work, a lot, and rightly so. there's a real gap with regards to including young people in working to prevent war, which is pretty much our biggest challenge related to peace, I would say. And I'll try and explain why. So that argument informs everything that we're going to look at in the next 15 to 20 minutes. The talk will be in 4 parts. One, I'll talk a little bit about the Youth, Peace and Security Agenda, what that is. And again, there's lots of work being done on that. 2, I'll talk about what the war system is. What do you mean by the war system, Phil? You know, and I'll hopefully try and explain a little bit about that. In order to do that, I'll be presenting a book, which is brand new out today, people. Then we'll be finishing, perhaps most importantly, all of you on the call are interested in action. You know, we're not just interested in talking, we're interested in action, right? So you want to know at the end, our time together, or the part that I will present, will end with kind of a call to action, an opportunity for you dialing in to get involved with this work moving forward. So that's part of our task. Why youth? Well, Gandhi said it best. If we want real peace in the world, we need to start with children. Totally agree. We need to start with children, involve young people, include all society in peace work. Everybody has a role to play in building peace. Here's the challenge though. Most schools around the world are not teaching peace. Most universities around the world are not teaching peace. You have peace education degrees and things like this, and then you can go up to do which I did my doctorate in international conflict analysis. But I think everybody should be learning peace or ways to deal with peace. If we lead and start from this assumption, actually from this fact, every single person on the planet will experience conflict in their life, bar none. So if that's the case, then every single person on the planet needs to learn how to deal with conflict more peacefully. That's the work of peace building. That's the work of peace builders. However, there's a real reason for starting with young people now more than ever. Now we have more young people on the planet than ever before. When I say young people, United Nations think of young people or youth as 15 to 24. I tend to think of young people from teens up to 29, although if we've got some friends from Africa, Uganda, in some African countries, you could go up to 40 actually to be a young person, so I'd just be a young person still, just. So yes, but we're thinking of it, teens up to 29. There's groundbreaking resolutions brought out by the UN. There's 3 in the last 5 years, which are basically saying all countries need to step up their game and support the positive role that young people should be playing in peace work. If we look at the age bracket 15 to 24, it's the fastest and largest growing demographic on the planet. If we're not involving them in peace work, we're missing a massive, what we would call peace dividend. We have the dividend in terms of numbers, in terms of young people, especially in developing countries. But we need this massive amount of young people to help us see a peace dividend, and we're not there yet. Young people continue to be the kind of missing piece. When we think of young people in peace work, we can see them in 3 buckets. One is victims of violence, and that is the case. There's a lot of research that shows how vulnerable young people are in terms of violence. The other is perpetrators of violence, and there's a lot of research on that as well. The third one that we know a lot less about is the role of young people in peace building, their positive contributions to peace building. How do we go about partnering with young people to pursue peace via peaceful means? We know a lot less about that, although there is wonderful, wonderful, wonderful examples out there. We need to learn more. But you're asking, why war? Okay, we've spoke about young people, we spoke about peace. Well, why not war? We haven't had any wars, Phil, since World War II. We're okay, aren't we? No, is my suggestion. War is the biggest threat that we have still. There is no viable, sustainable approach to peace in the long run that still has war with us. Okay, war abolition is at the nexus and can be traced back to many of the world's problems today. Let me give you one. For example, the climate change, which is an existential threat. If we don't get that right, there's not going to be, we won't be here to see whether we've got it wrong. The biggest polluter on the planet, bar none, is the US military. So although individuals matter, and we do matter, we also need to deal with the war system and militarization, because the biggest polluter is the US military. Nuclear weapons are still here, and believe it or not, we're still investing lots of money each day in nuclear weapons. Let me put this into even more sobering terms. Let's look at some facts. 14 trillion each year is spent on violence. 180 million people died in the 20th century due to war. 2 trillion each year we are spending on war or preparing for war. Half of that comes from the United States. So it's a massive issue, the US. When you look at what we need to bring about progress, you've got 30 billion, it's estimated, it would take to end starvation on the planet, to end poverty, which Gandhi said was the worst form of violence ever, hunger and starvation. 11 billion it would cost to provide the world with clean access to water. 2 billion it would cost to get rid of violence over 10 years. When we look at how much we're spending on militarization and war, 2 trillion, 1% of that we spend on peace building, right? So right now, and actually there is some good movement being done right now to move money out of the war system to more productive activities, which keep us safe and which we need right now because of COVID and things like this. So there is some good work being done, moving money away from that, but there's still a lot more to do. So I think in order to, here's the ending point, and if anything, if people walk away with anything today, it's this. In order to work for sustainable peace, we have to address the war system. The second thing, which I really hope that people can consider today, is that war is not something that happens out there. It's not something that just happens in South Sudan, Afghanistan, Colombia, Mexico, etc. It's something that happens in global North countries, because we are, including the UK, including the US, because we are the people that are building these weapons, and we are the people that are investing in these weapons, and we are the people that are selling these weapons to other countries. If you look at research in El Salvador, and other Honduras countries, etc., you can basically see a correlation between US and other allies selling weapons to El Salvador over the last 15 years and a massive increase in terms of homicides and deaths. It's plain to see, okay? So if anything goes away, don't think of war out there in terms of, you know, the countries that are experiencing war. It's about preparation for war, and that often happens in so-called peaceful countries. War is development in reverse. In order to work for peace, sustainable peace, to achieve any of the sustainable development goals, we have to end the war system, because where there's violence, where there's war, it directs attention away from education, global health, and all the other wonderful global goals, which all of the countries around the world should be working to. The good news is that war is not in our genes. The good news is that violence is not in our genes. Go and check out the civil statement on violence. Go and check out the United Nations culture of peace. Basically proves that violence is learned, and if that's the case, then we can learn peace. Margaret Mead, famous anthropologist, said that war is not in our genes. So that's good news, because it's a human invention, and human inventions fade away when there's two conditions met, just two. One is when people really understand the defects, the negative impacts of the current system or the current invention. You can look at slavery, you can look at apartheid and things like this. But inventions which back in their day, people thought were at some point thought were it's okay. Of course it wasn't okay, but some people did think it was okay. But obviously they were proof that it's not okay, and they faded away, but through people power. They didn't just fade away on their own, they faded away through people power, going out there and doing stuff. So then that brings us to the second thing. If we are to replace the current war system, what do we replace it with? You know, how do we go about replacing the current war system with, let's say, a peace system where peace is pursued by peaceful means? That's the work, what we do at World Beyond War and with our partners all around the world. Our mandate is to, very easy task, is to end the war system on a global scale in order to really improve the chances of building a just and sustainable peace. That's what we are dedicated to. We do that in two ways: education and action. Education through webinars, podcasts, online courses, which we've run 3 this year already, and we're currently starting another one in 2 weeks' time. We already have sold out all the time our courses, and we have people from 13 to age 85 on the courses, would you believe? 85 from different backgrounds. So you have students right through to PhD professors that are taking our courses, right from global north countries, US, Canada, UK, and other European countries, right through to South Sudan, Afghanistan, Iraq, Burundi, Sierra Leone. So we have a great mix of people learning together. Our educational work has been recognized globally. We won the Global Educators Challenge, which was awarded by the London School of Economics and the Global Educators Foundation for our innovative approaches to educating, especially young people, but also communities around global issues related to war, nuclear weapons, and climate change. And our executive director, my immediate line manager, has been nominated 4 times for the Nobel Peace Prize for our work at World Beyond War. But you might think, okay, well, how do we do that then, Phil? It's a bit of a big thing, you know, ending the war system. So we've really thought through this in collaboration with some of the leading thinkers in the world with regards to war and peace. We've laid out a blueprint for how we go about ending the war system. And if you're interested, I'll do a little plug now, but our 5th edition is actually officially launched today, and it's available. You can download it from our website, worldbeyondwar/alternative, or Amazon and places like this. You can download a PDF version for $5 of the book. Alejandra, who's a Rotaract for Peace, I've already sent her an email already with the PDF, because she's doing some work and perhaps connecting it to the blueprint that we lay out in the book. The book consists of 3 broad strategies, and you can think of them as kind of the hardware and the software of war abolition. 2 of them are hardware, and the one is looking at demilitarizing security. Right now we have this idea of a state security approach, where what we need to do is get away from a state security approach to a common security approach, to a person-centered approach, to looking at human security. And one way of thinking about this is this. It's a very easy way to think about it. No one is safe until all of us are safe. Okay, so when we've always got this threat of war, there's no one's fully safe. The second strategy is managing conflict without violence. And there's a lot of issues that are components there related to international law and things like this. Then the third one is the kind of the software of the blueprint, which looks at this future envisioning idea, which looks at a culture of peace, which was brought up before. How do we go about bringing about a culture of peace? So I'm not going to talk about these. You can look at them. In fact, actually, you're going to look into these into detail shortly. What I want to do is talk about, say a little bit about our book. Is also complemented by something called a Study War No More guide, which is online, free, lesson plans, etc., all there that you can get right away to look at. And actually, we've collaborated with some of the leading names in the whole field. So these are some of the people who really are leading the field in peace work. So you've got Ambassador Chowdhury, who was the brains and the founder, creator of the United Nations Culture of Peace. So he's been interviewed and he's in the book. You've got Betty Reardon, who is well known as the mother of peace education bar none. You've got Cora Wise, who was the person who founded the Hague Appeal for Peace and who served as a president. You've got David Swanson, my boss. You've got Tony Jenkins there, who's the wonderful mentor for me, colleague of mine, who's the global coordinator for the Global Campaign for Peace Education and was the education director for World Beyond War before I took it over. You've got loads of other people there whose faces you might know, you might not know, but wonderful colleagues to work with. But you're all thinking, yeah, okay, Phil, that's good. That's enough of talking. How can we do something and get involved with action? Here's 5 ways. 1, when you're thinking about peace work, take a wider definition to peace work. It's nice and it's necessary to get people involved in listening to each other, in talking to each other, etc. However, in order to look at sustainability, we need to think of a broader definition for peace work and really think about preventing war. which I don't think is a focus of too many peace organizations around the world. You know, there's this focus just on kind of, you know, not addressing the bigger, let's say, issue that's in the room, which is war. Second, education and action are needed. So it's good to learn things, but it's also really, really important to take that learning and put it into practice in the community. Third thing, build opportunities for intergenerational work. So although we really agree with starting with children and young people, it should be involving young people and adults in work together, intergenerational work in a way that both adults and young people learn together. So this is a great forum for what Rotaract for Peace are doing here about bringing different people together. Fourth thing is, it's okay if I say something a little bit controversial. Yeah, okay. So you're all like, yeah, go on. I want to say something controversial in the sense that a lot of people that are working with young people in peace work are not trained youth workers. They are not trained to work with young people. So I think that there needs to be an investment in training adults to effectively work with young people in peace work. If you go and look at lots of organizations, you might ask them, do you have a youth work qualification? You know, it's quite a controversial thing to say, but I think it's really important because there's a certain way of working with young people. And then finally, relationships. Peace is such a complex thing, but at the end of the day, it's about relationships. So every single person on the planet can improve their relationships that they have with themselves and others. So we all have a role to play in peace. Here is a model that I first presented. I was developing during the PhD, but I first presented, I helped develop and launch another program, and I still engage with them, New Gen Peace Builders. Here's a model I developed, and I presented this model when I was collaborating with New Gen Peace Builders at the Alliance for Peace Building annual conference last year, where I presented this model. It's about putting young people at the center of the work. It's about including them in research, as researchers, not researched or not doing research about them, and training them up to be researchers. It's about educating them, involving them in action and advocacy projects. But the outer circle is the community part. So it's about training the community, about training Rotarians, about training lecturers, professors, youth workers, social workers to partner with young people. The outer circle is about writing about this work in a way that tries to inform policy-making decisions, tries to inform the work that donors are doing. I can talk about this in a lot more time, but I'll go through this quick because I really want to finish quickly and move on to you guys doing some breakout sessions. 3 ways to get involved. 1, you might want to think about taking our upcoming course called Leaving World War II Behind, 6-week course starting in 2 weeks. 2, and I've already spoke to Rotaract for Peace about this and would love them to play a role in the leadership we're developing a World Beyond War Youth Network, which is quite exciting. And so we would love people to be involved with kind of informing what that should look like. The third one is thanks to Rotaract for Peace, and do a shout out here as well to Shab and to all the wonderful people at Rotaract for Peace, but also Alison, who's a wonderful Rotarian leader, etc. asked us at World Beyond War and others to collaborate on a project. And the project will involve a collaboration between Rotaract for Peace, the wonderful young people you're seeing now, Rotary Action Group for Peace, and World Beyond War, who've just presented. There'll be kind of 4 parts to it, but I'm going to skip through this quick. Focus on 2 parts, the education and the action part, because the research part, we had already started asking Rotaract for Peace, what do you want to learn? What should be involved in this education program so that we can tailor it to best meet the needs? So the education and action part, maybe I come here. Yeah, no, the education and action part, will be a 6-week online course, and this is open to everybody that's here. A 6-week online course. 100 will be young people trained. 50 of them at least will be Rotaract. The goal and our dream for Rotaract for Peace, Rotary Action Group for Peace and World Beyond War is to have 10 young people from 10 different countries. How cool would that be? Engaging in this process together, learning online. But it doesn't just stay there. There's the action component. The second part, where young people would take their learning and go and do projects in the community that would culminate in 10 purpose tailor-made peace projects which address issues in 10 different countries. How cool would that be? But do it in such a way that young people lead and adults guide. And then, after the projects are done, this would be the advocacy component. It would culminate in community celebrations in 10 different countries, which would showcase the work of Rotaract for Peace, Rotary Action Group for Peace, other people, and World Beyond War. And that starts in January, hopefully, this 6-week program. And we're going to be presenting this project as one of the projects for the Geneva Peace Week, which will be happening in November, connected to another project that we're working on with Rotarians, which will be a first of its kind project, never happened before in the Rotary world, the Peace Project Incubator, which some wonderful Rotarians in Switzerland are leading on. So this will be one of the projects that will be presented. So thank you so much, everybody, for listening. I know I covered quite a lot, but I really want to kind of leave it open for you to ask questions. And I know that Rotaract for Peace wanted to do some breakout sessions, which we'd look at the 3 particular components in more detail. So if that is okay for you, Rotaract for Peace, please tell me, yeah, Phil, you've spoke enough now. Let's get some questions. Thank you.
Everyone, feel free to unmute yourselves, ask questions. If you can't, put them in the chat. We'll give 10 minutes for that, and then we will move into our breakout room.
So yeah, please feel free to, so we've got some very cool, why war? Thank you. Okay, so maybe some people want to read out some questions. Is there any questions, Abraham, that we have already?
No, but I see, Anelia, you have your hand raised.
Great.
Let me see.
So please feel free, everyone. It's lovely to see you all. I know some of you say, oh, there we go.
Hey, I couldn't unmute myself before. First, I wanted to thank you. I am a Rotary Youth Exchange student from Venezuela in the US. I'm an interactor as well. And I had so many questions, and this is a topic that passionate me a lot because I was born in Venezuela. But I had a question. First, is there any possibility that we can sign up for the peace building education thing? That's my first question.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. And it's lovely to see you on the camera as well. And thank you for coming forward and sharing that wonderful question. And I hope everything's going okay with you in the US and, you know, with your Rotary work there. Yes. What's happening, and Rotaract for Peace are leading on this, is that we'll be keeping a list of countries that are interested. And we want to see if we can get 10 people from each country. So I can tell you already, and I don't know what Rotaract for Peace are doing, but I can tell you already that people have been saying to me that I've been speaking to, Rotarians and Rotaract, Phil, this is Canada, US, Sierra Leone, Burundi. I know there's Colombia definitely in force on the call as well, who have been saying, we want to do this. So we're going to start putting a list together of people that are really interested. What we want to do is collaborate with Rotarians in each particular country, because that in a way makes it more sustainable. So you would be wonderful to go and say to your Rotarians and say, look, I really want to be involved with this. And there's something I should have said. Okay, so the course is, we're running the course at the same price as what we run our World Beyond War courses at right now, $100 per person to go through the 6-week online course, which is a lot less than other programs, I can tell you. So what we'd be hoping is the Rotarians would sponsor Interact and Rotaract, etc. So thank you, wonderful question. And your input, by the way, from your experience in Venezuela would be amazing. So one thing I want to say is that it's not a one-way communication course, as in we present the material and you take it in, thank you. We really want to learn from you, because you guys are the experts also in this. So we're all sharing expertise together. Thank you. Another question?
Well, I see one in the chat. And how can we join this fellowship?
Yeah, well, hopefully I've kind of said a little bit about that. So Abraham and others at Rotaract for Peace, please, maybe we can set up a document, an Excel document where people can input their information and questions and things like this. And this is the start. This is where we're starting from today. So it's we'll be running upcoming webinars, which will be detailing in more detail the course. So yeah, Abraham, maybe you and Rotaract for Peace have got some ideas about how you want to kind of manage the people that are interested.
Yes. So I just dropped my email there in the chat. Feel free to email there if you want to gain more information, follow everything. And then Maria will be posting our social media links in the chat. So you can go ahead, follow us, keep yourself informed on what we're doing next.
Perfect. And let me just say as well, I am putting, please, I really love hearing from everybody. I'm putting my World Beyond War email address right to me directly if you've got any questions. So it's phil@worldbeyondwar.org. Please, write to me and we can keep track there. Okay, so another question. Okay. Okay, so World Beyond War. So if people are interested, if you go to World Beyond War /education or /peace education, you'll find loads of resources there, free, loads of resources. So yeah, so peace education or education. So the question was, where can we find more resources related to the culture of peace? So there's one avenue.
And Harrison, go ahead, you can answer your question. I'm sorry, Harrison, your audio doesn't seem to be working.
Can we hear Harrison or not? Can you see Abraham, whether Harrison's writing in the text, the chat or not? I'm just putting a link in here for the to find out more information about peace education.
Can you hear me now? Is that okay?
Perfect.
Yeah. Hey.
Okay. First off, I just wanted to say thank you so much for such an informative presentation. It's really fantastic to see what the interconnectedness of both academia and real-world action. I study IR, international relations myself, and it's really unique to find a security-based perspective that isn't focused on conflict as the main factor, if that makes any sense. It's really nice to see something that's more human-based and questioning the very premise that war is required. And I guess my question is, what relationship does post-conflict reconstruction and the reduction of conflict have? How can we step out of post-conflict using these models of peace where their very lives have been shaped by the idea that war is going to happen?
Well, Harrison, let me just say, I feel like I could talk with you for hours about this stuff because it's a very interesting question. And I've got lots to say on that. Different people say different things. Well, first of all, I'm very curious where you're studying and what specifically you're studying. So hopefully you can write to me on that because I'd love to hear more. And I really appreciate you saying that. Although we're academics and we look at research because research is important, we're also very, very interested in and invested in making it practical because it has to be practical on the ground, right? So your question around even that word as well, post-conflict, some people critique that. So people would say, and actually I will call on my colleagues here from Colombia. So some people have done some work specifically in Colombia. One of the leading experts in the field, John Paul Rotaract, talks about not using that word post-conflict, because actually we can never get rid of conflict. And actually we never want to get rid of conflict in some places. What we do want to get rid of is violence or violent conflict. So he questions this idea of post-conflict, as in, okay, we've signed the peace agreement. Does that mean, for example, in Colombia, and again, the experts in Colombia are the people that are from Colombia here, so I'm just giving a perspective, right? So once we've signed the peace agreement, does that mean everything's okay and we're not going to have conflict? I'm sure my colleagues on the call right now would probably say no, that's not the case. And your question, Harrison, with regards to what do we start with? Some people would say we start with let's start with looking at peace. And some people would say, let's start looking at the problem that gets in the way of peace violence. And then other people would say, no, let's start with conflict because conflict's always there. So if you take the father of peace studies, he would always say start with conflict because conflict is always there. And we deal with conflict in different ways. We can use power to have power over people and use violence to bring about change, or we could use power, because power is not a bad thing necessarily, to use our power within and our power with other people to bring about non-violent change or peaceful change. So hopefully that responds in a little bit to your question. I really appreciated your question. Thank you.
So I see another one. I think I can answer this one. So it says, are these webinars on demand? So I know World Beyond War has a course starting in 2 weeks. Phil can answer the question whether or not people can still sign up. We as Rotaract for Peace will be starting ours in January. We will be disseminating information more on that later. And these courses are only for those 18 years and over. Interact can be a part of it so long as they're 18 and older. I know there are some out there that are. So yeah.
And maybe, I don't know how you feel about it, but maybe, okay, so with regards to that, we've kind of had conversation in the past because sometimes there's some really kind of mature 16, 17-year-olds as well. So I don't know how open you are to thinking about that, but that could be something we can discuss as well. But I think it's a good point you brought up, yeah. So any other questions?
One of our biggest things is intergenerational peace, and that would involve the younger audience as well. So it's definitely something we can evolve to.
Yeah.
So yeah, all right. Well, if there are no further questions, we'll be breaking out into breakout rooms. So take everything that Phil has talked about today, keep that in mind. As we go into our breakout rooms, we have a leader for each one, myself, Alejandra, and Manuela. So when we go into our breakout rooms, we each have one of the branches of the strategic branches. So when we go in there, your session leader will give a little overview over each branch, which branch you're given, and then keeping in mind the discussion we've had today, that will kind of guide our conversations. So yeah, all right, let's head to our breakout rooms. Well, thank you all for joining us today. We had a wonderful time hearing from you, listening to your input and everything. So thank you so much. This will conclude our webinar for today. Again, if you want more information, please follow our social media website for any future updates and posts that we're going to make. And thank you so much to Phil for being our main speaker for today. Beautiful insight. It was lovely.
So that was wonderful, lovely. Were you trying to bring in the lovely English accent then? That was wonderful. No, thank you. Can I just, Abraham, is it okay if I just say something to everybody? I want to say that I've just come away kind of feeling so inspired by listening to you all, truthfully. And I really want to thank you for your energy in the breakout rooms, and thank you to the Rotaract for Peace for superstar kind of moderators. It was really cool, and I learned things, you know, going around the breakout room. So thank you for that. And actually, with that in mind, I'm really thinking now, with this, I mentioned it very briefly, but I think I'll say something about it more. The World Beyond War Youth Network, we're starting, it's new. And we'll be looking for people who are interested in being on the leadership for that, for the youth network. And I'd really love to hear from you if you're interested in being part of that, because I'd like a diverse kind of leadership. We would like a diverse leadership of young people from different countries. So if people are interested, please write to us. And it'd be really cool because you'll have an opportunity to really kind of inform what that youth network should do, because it's brand new, you know, what the focus should be, where we should focus our attention on, who we should be working with. We've already got some people from different countries interested, well, very interested, and they will be, you know, involved. But there's people I was speaking today, I think you'd be wonderful, you know, so if you're interested in being part of that, please write to me. I'm going to, I'm going to put in the chat my email again, and please write to us, because yeah, I'm kind of going away inspired. So it's your fault. I'm going away inspired, everyone. But on a good note, I mean, thank you for inspiring me.
Yeah. All right. Well, lastly, as is tradition, we're going to take a group picture. So if you all enable your webcams, and I will take the picture. Let me see. All right, everybody, smile, and then 3, 2, 1. Okay, thank you. Beautiful, beautiful. It was lovely having you all here today. Thank you for joining us. Our next webinar will be on October 2nd, and that'll be kind of a more introductory course to, well, the courses we'll be having in January.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful day.
Bye, guys.
Gracias a
Thank you,
todos.
Steve.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Tenga muy buen día. Gracias. Chao, chao. Hablamos pronto.
Dale, cuídate.
Gracias.